Back in the old days, you used to broadcast over the airwaves. Only a few people could do it, and you had access to it if you were a big broadcaster with an acronym like ABC, NBC, and so forth. These days, you can stream just about anywhere on the world using the pipes that we've laid down, called this wonderful thing called the internet. And so, what we found is that not just are the big boys doing this, but anybody can now do this. And you are part of that revolution if you're watching this. In fact, this show is all about helping to spread that. So what we're going to cover today is not just what you can do, which is something we talk about every day. If you don't have a big budget, you don't have a major broadcast television station, that's a topic we often cover on the show. But today we're actually going to talk to someone on the other side, someone who came at it from a larger organizational perspective and more of a public television perspective with large productions and how they've adapted to the new technology that is streaming. So I'm very excited to have Tim Mangini from WGBH Boston, one of the largest public television stations in the country, joining us today. And he and I are going to be jumping in about what they do over at WGBH Boston to harness this cool technology called live streaming. All right, stick around. It's going to be a fun show. And after it, we'll be having a live learning session on Wirecast on a topic many of you have been asking about, playlists. So stick around. This is Wirecast Live, and welcome. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to another episode of Wirecast Live. I'm your host, Andrew Haley, and each week on this show, live, Thursdays, 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time, we like to talk about live streaming, live video, and the democratization of media. And that is something we feel very passionate about, and I personally feel very passionate about, so I'm very privileged to do this show, and I love talking about new trends, new technologies, and we try to bring on industry experts in fields that we may know less about, but somehow may be related. So we bring on marketing experts, we bring on video technology experts, we've got some 3D video and VR people coming on, and we've kind of talked to everyone in between, from the small business range to the major marketers to broadcast engineers. So joining us today will be Tim Mangini. I'm very excited to sit down with him and talk about how they use live streaming over at WGBH Boston. So if this is something you're interested in and you want to catch more of these shows, then definitely tune in every week about this time. Or you can follow us or like us or share us on the following social media sites. We always love it when you guys do that. And you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for now. And so all of those are handles. Feel free to follow or subscribe if you want to get notifications. Make sure you turn on the live notifications. That'll let you know on those platforms when we're broadcasting. But if you want an email letting you know when the latest episode is coming up, right in your inbox, we will send it to you. Just sign up at www.telestream.net/WirecastLive, and you can catch all the shows, all the clips, all the guests, and the topics that we'll be talking about. This is also a great place to join other people in the community of live streamers and broadcasters, and you can ask questions, comment, and hopefully learn some stuff. And I also mentioned we try to do a live learning session once a week as well. For now, we're doing that after the Wirecast Live show, but we think we'll be moving that to a different day coming up soon, so stay posted. We may also be doing some special bonus streams throughout the week at different times, and those are going to be coming up throughout this month. And so I think it's going to be exciting. Stay tuned to our live channels, get those notifications, and you'll be able to catch the latest info the minute we're streaming it. It's a fun thing to do. So hopefully those are the ways you can get in touch with us, and you can find out all the wonderful things that we have to share with you and some of the exciting news we'll be talking about. Coming up next week, actually, we have another show, and I will be taking a break, actually. This is going to be hosted by my friend and colleague, Lucas Bischofberger, and Lucas is going to be talking about how to use ScreenFlow with Wirecast. Now, this is ScreenFlow, if you haven't heard of it, is our Mac video editing software. It's award-winning, it's very powerful, and it's a very cool combination when you start using this software with Wirecast. And one of the neat things is that in the latest version, we just launched, there are some tools and some performance enhancements that have made this combo much more powerful. So Lucas is going to be diving into that. And afterwards, he'll be doing a live learning session on image carousels as distinct from playlists. So this is kind of a two-parter. I'll be covering playlists today. Lucas will be covering live carousels or image carousels next week. And between the two, you'll kind of understand what the difference is, why you would use one versus another. They're both a form of playlist, but they have some different strengths and benefits. You might want to use them in different situations. All right, so that is our current news that I have to share with you, our upcoming shows, and I'll remind you again a little bit at the end of the show if there's any other news to share. And if you happen to be, by the way, we'll start announcing this as well, but if you happen to be in IBC, going to IBC or in the Netherlands next month, we'll be at IBC and I'll be going out there. So definitely, if you're in that area or you'd like to go to that broadcast show, stop by the booth. We would love to see you and talk with you about Wirecast or what you're doing with it. So that's my news, and I would like to, without further ado, to bring on our guest for today, Mr. Tim Mangini, who is the Senior Director of Production Technology at WGBH Boston, joining us live from Skype, or on Skype, from his office on the East Coast. Tim, welcome.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey, thanks for being here and making time for us.
Yeah, no worries.
I know you're a busy guy with the title of Senior Director, so you've got a lot of things to be responsible for over there. WGBH Boston, as I mentioned, is a very big organization. I would like to maybe start by just giving folks an introduction to you, who you are, and how did you come to be working at WGBH Boston?
I got here kind of through the School of Hard Knocks. I started my career back in the late 70s working on Saturday morning cartoons. And that broke me into the editing union in LA. And after that, I kind of took a circuitous route. That job ended and I went to Washington, D.C. and did this thing called multimedia for a while. And then I went back out to LA and worked on major motion pictures for a while. And then I came back to New England, which is where I'm from, and did work for a variety of different organizations, corporations, broadcast, arts organizations, and so on. And in 1995, Frontline contacted me about a post-production supervisor role. So I took over with them in 1995 and built a shop called The Outpost, where we post-produce Frontline and other high-end documentaries. And back about 4 years ago, WGBH asked me to oversee production and post-production for all of our brands. So I've been here over 22 years and, digging it.
Nice. Well, just out of curiosity, what were some of the cartoons that we can credit you for?
I worked on Scooby-Doo and Casper the Ghost, the Flintstones, old-time cartoons.
Nice. Super Friends?
No, but well, my favorite was a show called The Shmoo. I did an arcane task called track reading, where you listen to the actual film track and write down frame by frame, syllable by syllable, what everyone says so they can draw the mouth. And the Shmoo character spoke like this. Blah, 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 blah. So it was particularly challenging.
I imagine it was. Well, that's great. I'm going to have to YouTube Shmoo somewhere and see if I can find some old clips somewhere. All right. So a long circuitous path. You've really seen this industry from early days. And so you know a lot about how things have progressed. I'm really stoked to sit down and unpack that with you, because I think you have a very unique perspective and something, and I think it'll be fun to sort of talk about how you see this going and how you approach this. But before we get to that, I'd like to briefly talk about WGBH Boston. You mentioned Frontline, which is a fantastic sort of documentary brand. I think it's one of the most respected news brands out there when it comes to just telling the truth and telling stories that matter. People pay attention to what Frontline does. And so Frontline is one of the many sort of brands or products that WGBH owns and is responsible for and produces. Is that correct?
Yeah. We have 5 major brands that we're really well known for: Frontline, American Experience, Antiques Roadshow, Masterpiece, Mystery, and Nova. And each of those brands is an iconic brand, but across WGBH, we do about 33%, depends on the year, but about 33% of the PBS primetime broadcast, and we provide a significant amount of children's broadcasting, arts programming, and so on. And we also do have a significant local presence. So we have a number of programs that we do here in the New England area for our local audiences.
No, okay. And you're responsible for not just the nationally aired, primetime content and production, and helping those teams meet their needs and plan, but also for the local content as well?
Yeah, exactly. My team is called the Production Group, and we oversee all production and post for all brands. So each of our brands, particularly the national brands, they will have their own production manager, post-production supervisor, and so on and so forth. So I work with them on what the kind of strategic trends should be, and if they have a very high-end project, like Nova is doing a special Facebook Live for Eclipse, for the eclipse that's coming up on the 21st, and then they're doing a broadcast that night after capturing materials all day across the country. So that's something that I'm helping consult with them on, because it's a bigger project, takes a lot more resources. But we also have local programs, and I work with them every day on both their broadcasting strategies and their social media strategies.
Nice. Well, you mentioned Facebook Live, and I gather that has been a very important part of your strategy and your trend over the trends that you're seeing over at WGBH. I keep stumbling over that acronym. So I'm curious about talk about what you're doing on Facebook Live now and how that came about. How is Facebook and social media streaming started to work into your day job?
Yeah, well, it was about a year ago, our director of social media, Tori Starr, came to me and said that they had noticed that Facebook Live streams were getting many, many more hits than just pure web streams. And it was kind of it was a newer thing in the marketplace, and she wanted to know how we could maximize that. So we have about 200 social media accounts here at GBH. So it's important that everybody be on the same page about it. So we held a meeting. We got together all the different social media directors from the different strands and had a conversation. And I asked, what do you guys want to do? How do you want to use this new tool? And out of that meeting, we realized that there was really quite a wide variety of requirements, anywhere from somebody who's on set, holding that phone and just giving you you're there feel, to productions that are fully managed with multiple cameras and lower thirds and logos and so on. So my group put together 4 packages, as it were, so that anybody, when they wanted to do a production, could come to us, and we had kind of a very low cost, easy way for them to do it. We wanted to democratize the process so that you did not need a high-end engineer to do it. You could do it yourself, or you could ask for help. And Wirecast was one of the tools that we chose to help tell those stories.
Yeah, so the key there sounds like you created some different packages or different solutions you could deploy for different purposes, and started with just the mobile stream package. I assume a mobile device with maybe a gimbal and nice microphone, things like that.
We just wanted to make it a little cleaner. People stick up a phone and they don't realize that the audio is not good or it's a little shaky. So we gave them a few tools for that. We have a Mevo camera, which is a 4K camera that allows you to set it up and with a tablet or a phone kind of switch between different angles. We have a Wirecast system that has a
Wirecast Gear.
SDI. Wirecast Gear 200 or 210. I can't remember the exact model. And it has we have a Sony PXW 70 camera that is just part of the base package. Lighting kit, microphone kit, easy to set up. And then we also have kind of we have full studios that we can wire into our Wowza instance and do Facebook Live and feeds to YouTube and to our websites from there as well. So there's kind of all different flavors. And really what we do is we go in first meeting and ask people, what's the vibe you have and what's your tolerance for risk? If you want kind of that edgy vibe, then go with the lower end set of tools. If you're looking for something that is really polished and feels like a finished production, maybe you go towards the higher end set of tools.
Got it. And what are you finding across the brands? You mentioned that the different brands are using the tools in different ways. What if you were to say Antiques Roadshow or Nova or Frontline? Are they what do they like to what do they tend to use more when it comes to streaming and these types of kits that you've put together?
Yeah, well, it's really across the spectrum, and it really depends on the event. Sometimes they want to stream a clip and then come back and interview the producer of that clip, and in that case, a phone is all they need. As I mentioned, Antiques Roadshow, they do a clip the Tuesday following a Monday night broadcast, and they roll some clips from the previous night, and they give their audience some kind of behind-the-scenes discussions with appraisers and so on. They wanted a little bit more of a polished feel with roll-ins and lower thirds and logos and bugs. So we use that. It really varies across the spectrum. I would say we use all of our tools, at least the lower three ends of the tools, about equally, and then the high-end production stuff is very targeted and doesn't get used quite as much, but we don't need to because those are generally used for broadcast.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit about dive in a little bit to the tools you mentioned. So you and then how I actually want to show an example that you sent us of what's going on. So let's talk about, say, the Wirecast system you put together. You mentioned you have a Wirecast Gear 210. You have bundled that 210 with some some cameras, and you said it was the Sony, the PWX-W70?
PXWX70, I think is what it is.
So I'm going to pull that up here. Deborah, if you can throw that on my screen so we can see that. This is the camera. What is it that you like about this camera?
Simple, inexpensive camera, XLR outputs and inputs, HDMI output, or I believe we have HDSDI out of this camera. Real audio controls. You can see that you have dials that you can adjust your audio with. For us, audio is really such a significant part of the production experience. Too many of the really inexpensive cameras go too light on that. And it's also 4K capable, so although Wirecast doesn't utilize that now, it provides us with that capability going forward if we're going to use it for a field camera.
Yeah, and actually the Wirecast Gear unit does not have a 4K card in it, but if you grab a 4K card, Wirecast will accept a 4K input, no problem. It just depends on the card you pair it with. And
the camera has, the other thing we like about it is the camera has really good bright glass, so we can use it in available light situations. It has a nice big sensor, so it's extremely clean. And one of the things our team does is, because we're capturing at 1920, 1080, but going out at 1247, 20, we can do in the Wirecast Gear, we can do an instant crop and go in and out. And not have to have two cameras to get that effect. That
makes sense. And so, in the price range of the PXWX70, is that a 2,500 or so? Is it a sub 3,000?
It probably is. I don't. I could probably find that number somewhere.
It's
I haven't
not an arm and a leg. Okay.
I think I bought it a year ago. So.
Okay. And then, so you've got that. You pair that with some nice microphones. Do you? I assume do you provide a variety? Do you like to provide wireless lavs? Do you like to provide booms? Is there something in between shotguns? How do you sort of pair that up?
We put together a kit that it would be relatively easy to use and easy to understand. So there's a couple of wired labs, a couple of wireless labs, a shotgun, a stick mic. And basically when we talk somebody through a production, we ask them, what are you doing? And then we'll advise, hey, you're going to want this, or you might want that. We have a mic stand. We send out a mic stand if they're going to need it. If they don't need it, so be it. We have a shock mount for the top of the camera. It's really, I have a team that is pretty good at assessing what the technical abilities are of the team that's going to be using it, and we try and pair them up with the appropriate gear.
Got it.
But, we really preach very much, make sure you have good audio. Because nothing kills a live experience like, crackling in the mic or overmod or something like that.
Got it.
We have a lightweight production mixer so that they can, if they have multiple sources and they feel comfortable, we show them how to twist the dials and, get the meters right, those kind of things. We also have, a pretty big board mixer that if we're going to be doing a whole number of things and we have to have aux sends, we have that as well.
Okay. Well, let's see an example here. I'd love to see kind of how the kit plays out in the real world a little bit. So you sent us a couple examples. One was a Facebook live stream you did with for the Antiques Roadshow. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I'm going to pull this up and just start playing, and we can kind of have this playing in the background while we talk.
Yes, it's the executive producer of Antiques Roadshow. You can see their open rolls in off the top, and Marcia talks directly to the audience, directly into the camera. She's really good at this, and their fans really dig this. And so she has a conversation with them, says, I'm gonna show you some stuff that you didn't see last night. So she kind of takes them a little bit behind the scenes. And then she eventually brings in some appraisers.
Let's skip ahead here. Let's see if I can jump ahead. So around the 31 mark or so, I think you mentioned was a good spot to check.
This is an appraiser who, is a specialist in one of the appraisals that won the night before, Laura Woolley. And she, she talks them through how she made the appraisal on a particular item. And in the meantime, the audience is writing comments in their Facebook stream, and they have somebody feeding to Marcia those questions on an iPad, and Marcia feeds them to Laura, and they have a conversation with the audience. And that's the value add, something that we try and have be part of any of our social media experiences. Is like, why are you doing this live? You're doing it because you're able to actually interact with the executive producer and these people, right?
Right.
And so, that's really, here's another one. This guy's a specialist in sports memorabilia or something.
Cool. And are you bringing these guys on Skype?
We're bringing them in on Skype, right?
Okay.
And so far so good. That's been very successful.
And Marcia's in the studio at WGBH.
Yeah, it's actually what we call the digital studio, which is a converted office, just kind of a larger. I think it's like a 12 by 20 office that we converted. We hung a background in the back of the room. Kind of did a little bit of sound isolation. Hung some low-cost lights.
See if I can pull that up. It looks great. I mean, the lighting's great. The gray background, I love it. It's so polished.
Yeah. It's very simple set. We do have a good lighting designer here. He, took some inexpensive LED lights and set it up, and so we'd have a nice clean signal. Marcia operates with an IFB so that she can be talking to, so that she can hear her audience.
Can you explain what an IFB is for those who don't know it?
An IFB is an earpiece that allows, it's the same kind of thing you see on the nightly news that allows us to
right there,
let Marcia hear what the appraiser is saying without having feedback in the room. If we were to put it on speaker, we'd
picked up on the mic. Right.
Exactly, pick up on the microphone. So that's one of the advantages. We use a slightly more advanced audio board, not an expensive board, maybe $700-800 or something, but it's got aux sends so that we can send the signal of just the Skype feed to her ear and it doesn't have her audio mixed into it.
Right. What do you use for the iPad app? You mentioned that someone's feeding her questions on an iPad. How are they doing that?
Yeah, I'm not the one doing it, but I recall it's as simple as a Word document that is shared like Google Doc or something.
Okay, just copy paste and she can see it. Right.
Copy paste, and Marcia every so often looks down and says, "Oh,
I love
Joe
that.
from Albuquerque wants to know."
I love that.
Try and use really simple tools that aren't complicated.
Well, we have some announcements coming up on some curation stuff. So we'll get in touch with you so that these comments may not only be shared with her privately, but she can even put them on the screen if she wants. So hopefully we can help you with that.
Yeah. Always looking for ways to extend the tool sets that we have.
All right. Well, we'll talk. So that being said, I know if you guys are watching right now, you have some questions for Tim or anything that we've shown, please, if you're a fan of Antiques Roadshow, you want some more behind-the-scenes knowledge, please chime in here. We'd love to take those. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge some of the people who are watching right now. Leon says hi, and Mark, thanks for tuning in here. Mark is pointing out he still wants 608, 708 caption pass-through. We all want that, Mark. We really all want that. So
as do we at WGBH. Some of you may not know that WGBH created closed captioning.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say.
It is near and dear to our hearts getting captioning on everything.
Can you take a moment, just we'll sidebar on that, but do you have any, can you briefly summarize the rules as you're aware of them as far as captioning and what anybody watching might now want to be aware of as far as what's going to be regulation regarding captioning? Do you have any insight into that?
In its simplest form, anything that you broadcast that you then put on a digital platform has to be closed captioned. That's it in its rawest form.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting soon to the time where everything on the web will want to be captioned, but fortunately, some of those tools are getting robust enough that they're workable.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, those have been have advanced by fits and starts. Some of them, good. Some of them not so good. But we're getting to the point where, for example, most of our programs or all of our national programs are captioned at the time of broadcast, and we have tools where we can convert that to a digital platform when we go back out to a digital platform.
Got it. Okay. So do you think it'll be regulation then that literally all native digital streams, so even this like behind the scenes Antique Roadshow, which is Facebook first, digital first, was never broadcast outside of that that stream to Facebook, will also be required to have captioning at some point?
It's really, that's a good question. It's hard to know what the FCC is going to do because it's the head of the FCC is a politically appointed office. Under the current administration, I would say it's probably not trending in that direction. But by and large, those people who are disabled, either visually impaired or orally impaired, they want to experience programming.
Right.
So for us, it's a value add if we can provide that service, even if it's not required.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it being required on all things digital is a long way off. It's not part of any legislation that I'm aware of now.
Okay, well, that's a good answer. Well, thanks for sort of going on tangent there for me. But I while I had you, I wanted to pick your brain on that because I know that captions are such a critical part of a broadcast workflow, and you absolutely need to consider them because legally you have to right now. And as we start going to Facebook and Periscope, YouTube, and so forth, it's really interesting how that technology and those regulations will need to transfer over. And as you said, like maybe there's not official rules yet, but it is a really clear value add to be able to get anybody to be able to participate in any programming wherever you're putting it.
Yeah, last year we did a program called Point Taken. It was sent out of here at WGBH. We recorded it at 6:30 in the evening, and then we aired it at 11:30 in the evening with social media integration. And we had closed captioning, of course, on the broadcast. But at that time, Facebook did not have an API integration with any closed captioning capability. So we had to make some difficult choices about how to get that closed captioning to our audience. But now, a year later, Facebook has a viable live closed captioning tool that allows us to have live Facebook streams closed captioned at the time of air.
Nice. That's great. All right, so let's take one more example here that you sent us, which I think folks would love to see. So this is a live stream you did, and maybe you can talk a little bit about it. It's with a very well-known band, the Dropkick Murphys.
Yeah, and now for something completely different. This is this is the Dropkick Murphys, which is a local band here from Boston that have become fairly well-known nationally and internationally. And they and we have a really spectacular audio studio here at WGBH, and they decided to do their first ever Facebook Live here in our studios at WGBH. One of our strands is from WGBH Music. It's called Front Row Boston, where we record live local music and then put it on the web. And historically, those have been shot in a club locally and then tightly edited and then streamed later. This one was done very much in the same way, but it was done completely live.
I'm loving this live title documentary. They brought in the graphics like right as they kind of coordinate it, so as they're getting up and doing their like their huddle, they're throwing on the titles. It's looking great.
Yeah, it's really fantastic, and Greg Shea, who does just an amazing job on these programs, really wanted this live to feel like a typical Front Row Boston with DSLRs, which is what he shot it with, all converted through HDMI to HD-SDI converters going into the Wirecast gear.
Nice.
And so again. It was, a completely different bent, but it allowed us to do a live music show from our studios. You can see lit well, it sounds great, mixed through an SSL board, and then we went into the Wirecast with that. And then the value add in this program was that we told the audience up front, you can vote with the icons in your Facebook like window for what the last song is going to be.
Okay, so let's skip ahead to that. Is that around the 35-minute mark?
Yeah, right around there.
Okay.
I believe we showed the icons on screen. I can't remember the exact time frame, but if you watch for long enough, they usually bring it up.
Okay.
And it would just say, vote now for the last song. And this gave the audience an opportunity to both weigh in and feel integrated, and it had them decide that they wanted to wait to the very end to see which song was chosen. Mm-hmm. So it was, again, a value add that made sense for why it was live.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Participation and engagement is one of the number one things that people and brands and stream to social media for, is to get access. That's why we're doing this right now, right? So we want to include people. So this is fantastic. I love this example. I think I'm going to be referencing this a lot when people ask me, what can you do with Wirecast? This is a great example right here.
And we use it in a lot of different ways. Those are just two kind of very different ways that we use with two of our different strands.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that, Tim. I really appreciate that. So, folks, if you are curious about where you can reach Tim, or if you have more questions, I saw some people wanted to know exactly what the model camera was. You can go back in the stream and look at that. But it was the Sony PXWX70, and it looks like someone in the chat said, looks like Alexander said it's about $19.50 on B&H right now. So not a bad, that's a good deal, especially. And
sounds right.
Let's see. Yeah, shout out to Boston from Sean. Thank you, Sean. And
awesome, Sean.
Let's see if we have a couple on Facebook here at all saying hello. No, just people saying thanks and great job, Tim. So where I think we have some contact information where people can reach out to you.
Yeah, feel free to reach out if you have questions. I try and get to things, assuming time allows, but you can check out our Facebook feed. You can check out our different strands and look for those links. and glad to help if there's any way I can be helpful.
Well, that's really awesome of you, Tim, and thanks for spending time with us to walk us through how you handle streaming. Before you go, do you have any last thoughts on why this, your opinions on social streaming moving forward, and having spent so long in the broadcast industry and really been through this transition, what do you think you would like to leave people with today as far as your thoughts on what's happening, what's going to be coming, and what they can take advantage of now?
Yeah, well, it's really tough because the technology is moving so quickly. It's really hard for us to know where we place our bets. Mm-hmm. And we felt as though being in public media, we needed to be where our audiences wanted to be. And on social media is clearly a place where they can interact with us directly. So for us, that was a sure bet, something that we wanted to spend extra energy on. My main thing about social media is that when you're engaging, find a way to engage with your audience so that it draws them in, so that they feel a part of what you're doing. Whatever it is, figure out, how do I make that audience feel a part of what we're doing? And that's really the answer for us.
That's great advice. So Tim, thanks so much for joining us. I'd love to speak with you again more on this. And again, I'll sideline with you on some stuff that might help you guys as you continue to refine your productions there over at WGBH using Wirecast, among many other tools. So Tim, it's been a pleasure.
Great. Thanks very much, Andrew.
All right. Take care. So that was Tim Mangini from WGBH Boston, the Senior Director of Production Technology. And as you can see, real gentleman and a scholar. He really knows his stuff. He's very, very experienced, far more so than I. He's been doing this far longer and is in the trenches every day doing this stuff. So I think it was really interesting, his thoughts that WGBH is not necessarily about being frozen in time in a certain technology or committed to a specific path for broadcasting. As you can see, they're a traditional broadcaster, even pioneered things like captions and standards early on. And now they're adapting with the times and moving on to new platforms and new mediums like Facebook and finding their audience where their audience is and finding new ways to reach them. So again, it really is kind of a good example of how it's not the medium that matters, it's the message and where the audience is, and making sure you can still communicate what you want to say. So great advice from him. I hope that was helpful. I really enjoyed interviewing him and talking with him today, and hopefully we can talk more with WGBH Boston in the future and continue to keep tabs on what they're doing over there, because it seems to be pretty exciting. So I encourage you to go over and check out their programming, and of course, all of their stuff is really amazing, from Nova to Frontline and so forth. So check them out if you're not familiar. I always think that one of our greatest national treasures, they have to say, is the parks, but also I think PBS is also another national treasure, and the programming that we do and make publicly available is pretty important. That's a big thing for me as well. So I want to say thanks to our partners for today. We have a number of them that we couldn't do this show without. We use different technologies and different pieces to put productions together. So thanks to these different companies, we work with all of them and love their products, and also use them here in the studio every day. So thanks to them. If you want to follow us or subscribe on social media, once again, here are our handles: Telestream Wirecast on Facebook, @Wirecast on Twitter, and WirecastTube on YouTube. Great places. You can also catch all the show archives and edited versions of past shows and guests on the YouTube channel with some playlists. So those are the best place to catch those if you miss anything. And then finally, we have an email list. You can subscribe at www.telestream.net/WirecastLive, and that's another fantastic way to find out about upcoming shows. And like I said, that one's going to be good because all these different ones, but we will be doing some different broadcasts and some special, we're going to call them WirecastLive Extras, coming up at different times. So you'll still be able to catch this regular show each week, but when, there will be some extra broadcasts here and there, and you might want to get on one of the notifications lists so you can find out and catch the latest infos and broadcasts. All right, that's our show for today. Tune in next week if you want to find out how to use Wirecast with ScreenFlow from my friend Lucas. It's going to be a great one, as well as the learning session he'll be covering, which is going to be all about image carousels. Now, after this show, we're just about to wrap here. I will be doing a learning session on playlists. So if you're curious to watch that one, stick around. Otherwise, we will see you next week, and thanks for watching.